Welcome to Biological, the podcast, where science, the soul, and perception meet to inspire you to live a more biologically aligned and fulfilling life. My name is Nellie, and in this podcast, we'll explore the intelligent design behind the human body and the meaning within our experiences. Through the lens of German new medicine and perceptual change, we'll look at symptoms, emotions, and life events not as problems to fix, but as purposeful biological responses and soul alignment. My intention is to inspire curiosity, self-trust, and a deeper understanding of the remarkable intelligence your being holds. These conversations are also not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any medical conditions. They are for the purposes of intellectual conversation and education only. Hey guys, and welcome into Biological, the podcast, episode 1. And biological, what is biological? Big lover of etymology. So bio meaning life and logical means sensical too. So we're looking at all things that are sensical to life, which means that the person who gave me life, my mother, this first episode is dedicated to. And she has played an unbelievably big role in my journey to this point and in the work that is now my mission. I don't think she knew that she would be such a big part of that, and she probably doesn't now, and we'll go into that in a little bit. So my mum in 2024 went into full-time care. The diagnosis was advanced early onset dementia. She was 67 at the time, and that has been a wild ride. My mum gave me the role of EPOA, Enduring Power of Attorney, which again has been a challenging and an evolutionary process to go through. And so hence this episode is dedicated to Mum because, as you know, my field of work, or may not know, maybe you do, maybe you don't, is German new medicine, or Germanische Heilkunde. And in Germanische, we know that dementia is caused by multiple separation conflicts. We have to have one on either side of the brain. And when looking at my mum's history, there is some clarity there for me around how that could have arisen for her. And so separation has become a really massive theme in my life of exploration. And a few months ago, one of my mentors in one of my regular sessions asked me, why have you had to go through this? Why have you had to have this journey with your mum? Why is this happening for you? And I couldn't answer that straight away. It took me some time to go away and think about it. And I think I was out in the garden, which is often where a lot of my insight happens. And the drop-in was that because part of my mission and work in this lifetime is to dissolve the illusion of separation. And when I really felt into that, it is at the core of the work I do and everything that I have been putting time, energy, and resources into learning with Germanische Heilkunde over the last 11 years. So again, dedication to Mum, and she probably didn't know that she would become such a big part of my journey. So today in this first episode, would love to talk about separation, because what has been becoming clear to me is that basically the root of all disease, illness, as we know it in the GHK context, comes from what we call a DHS, a Dirk-Harmer syndrome. So we're looking at an event that catches us off guard. We are feeling isolated in that moment. It's acute, it comes on quickly, and we don't know what to do. We don't have resources to deal with it. So in that moment, the body starts adapting the organ that is going to help us through that event. And so with dementia, as I said, that DHS, that conflict theme is separation. To produce dementia, we have to have one on either side of the brain. So that is one in the partner side, one in the mother-child side. Partner, father, significant other is one side, mother-child side is the other side. So we have to have two separation conflicts, one on either side of the brain. And it produces in the short term a short-term memory loss, and in the long term, memory degradation. Now, we can have other things involved in that exacerbate, complicate, add layers to those separations and the memory loss. So, for example, a KCT, a kidney collecting tubules, with the water retention, we'll often see someone on top of the memory loss become very disorientated. We might notice that they walk around in circles or they walk a lot. They're kind of trying to find their way. Now, the purpose of the separation conflict and the memory loss that goes with a separation conflict is that we forget the person we are missing, or we forget the person we want to be separated from. So that is the mental level purpose of that program. The physical level of purpose of that program is that we see micro degradation in the epidermis skin cells, which leads to a lowered sensitivity. So quite literally, we become slightly numb, again, to forget the missing or unwanted touch of the person, the individual involved. And so bringing this back around in GNM, like I said, we know that every disease, mental and physical, is born of a DHS, a Dirk-Harmer syndrome, an event that catches us off guard. But in my experience, I'm going to take that one step further and say that 99%, and this is not, a factual percentage, but from my own experience, from my observations, from what I'm coming to understand about life, is that 99% of those DHSs, those conflicts, those shocks, are born of separation of some kind. So slightly different to the actual separation program that we're talking about. But here I'm starting to go into a generalized conversation around separation. And we are, in my opinion, seeing an extremely heightened rate of separation in our modern world. Separation from self, separation from nature, and separation from each other. And this has really become a core part of my mission. It's also why Demartini work has become such a loved part of my work, because in my experience, the Demartini method and his principles really offer us a way to reconnect to ourselves, to nature, and to each other. Separation is, in my opinion, at the core of 99% of disease and illness, mental and physical. And I don't think that's an accident that we are being separated from our biology, from ourselves, from our nature, from each other. So let's talk a little bit about what that means in those three contexts and how we can start to turn that back around as well. Because, like I said, everything that I've been through with Mum has basically led me to the point where I believe that a core part of my mission and my work is to dissolve the illusion of separation. So when it comes to separation of the self, it seems like, and this goes into a really interesting topic on identity as well, right? More and more and more, I'm seeing humans, particularly women, to be honest, that is largely who I work with, coming through with identity conflicts. And the identity conflicts is basically, in essence, again, a separation from self. It's, I don't know who I am. I don't know where I belong. I'm having trouble making a decision. I don't know which way to go. I don't know where my tribe is. Yeah, this kind of context. So again, it's like a separation from self. And I don't think that's an accident that we are starting to lose sight of who we are at a core nature, and our biology informs a lot of that. So in being separated from our primal biology, we're also being separated from who we are and ourselves. And in some other guest podcasts I've been on, you guys have probably heard me, if you've listened to any of those episodes, speaking about the biological roles of masculine and feminine. And this is definitely playing a part, I believe, in our society of, again, breaking down that connection to self, because times have changed, but our biology hasn't. We still run on the primal blueprint of biology that we started with. So separation from self for me is really about not understanding who we are anymore, not having a sense of self, not understanding what our biological roles are, not understanding who we are at the core. And so how do we start turning that back around? Well, in my perspective, one, learn GNM, GHK, gives us a lot of biological context back in the picture, but really starting to explore and understand who we are as biological creatures, as human beings in this world, and really raising our self-awareness around who we want to be in this world. I think mothering has pulled a lot of women away from understanding who they are too. Now, this is an interesting topic, right? It's very double-edged because in one hand, it is my belief that mothers should be in proximity. I'm going to use that word, in proximity of their children as much as possible, right? The mother is the ultimate safety net for the child. However, what's happening now is that we are not just in proximity of our children a lot, but we are everything to them. And that part, not sure how biological that part is. We were not meant to do the entire parenting journey alone. And I think that it's that part of that dynamic that's pulling a lot of women away from who they are. Women don't know who they are or what they want or what they're doing here anymore. And because we are not parenting in tribe, in community, all the pressure is on the mother to be everything that a mother can be. And then in that, she's losing her sense of identity and she's losing sight of her biology. Women are also being pushed a really long way. They're being pushed very far into picking up roles that are not feminine, that are not in alignment with biology for a woman. So we're being pushed into very masculine tasks, masculine roles. Again, now we have a bit of a sense of separation from self and somewhat of an identity crisis. I don't know if anyone listening, but for me, when I hit 40, the whole 40-year-old midlife crisis was so true. For me, so true. And again, for me, that's a picture of, as we start to enter our later years, who are we in this society? Like modern society would have us believe that we're starting to degrade in value, that we don't really have a place as we get older as women. But looking at things through the primal lens, the biological lens, we know that as the woman ages, she absolutely still has a place, but we're not educated in that anymore. We don't have that place so readily available or so clear to us anymore as in the tribal dynamic. That woman would become the wise woman, the matriarch. She would appropriately go more into masculine after menopause because her testosterone takes over, her estrogen drops. So now she's still a woman, but she becomes slightly more masculine. So she is the woman that stays and protects a bit. When the men are out hunting, she disciplines the children, she takes care. So there are so many ways that we've been disconnected from our identity as women and then as men as well. Obviously, I can't speak directly to the experience of being a man, but what I'm observing is that men are starting to lose their place in the community. They don't have a super strong sense of purpose, of providership, of protection for those around them anymore. They're starting to be like, well, if women can do everything we can, where do we fit? Where do we stand? So again, there's a separation from self, a separation from understanding the biology, a separation from understanding one's own identity. Then that kind of ties in closely with the separation from nature. I think we've lost sight of the fact that we are nature. We come from nature, we are of nature, we are part of nature, and forgetting that is what I'm seeing is that the human ego is inflating so much that we think we are above nature, beyond nature, and we're starting to mess with nature. But I also believe and think that nature will always win. So if we push her too far, things are probably going to happen to pull us back and to rein us in. And a slight tangent here, but my inner feeling knowing is that we've been at this point in humanity before. I do feel like our human ego and our human pride has been at this point before. And at that point, we have been smacked down. We have been put back in our place by nature. And my feeling is that if we don't catch this in time, this separation from nature, that the same thing is probably going to happen again, because nature has a way of righting herself, of correcting herself, of rebalancing things. Everything in nature, everything in the world, in the universe, in energy is always looking for equilibrium. There is no gain, there is no loss, there is no high without a low, there's no low without a high. Everything is always looking for equilibrium, including nature. And so if we get, as a human species, too far into our ego, too separated from self, too separated from nature, too separated from each other, I do believe that we will probably get put back in our places in the cycle of life. So again, how do we start to shift that back a little bit? And of course, I'm going to say, learn GNM, you learn GHK, learn about your biology so that you can work with it rather than against it. But also in our Foundations Live cohort the other day, Foundations Plus Live, which we just wrapped up the first cohort of, second cohort will be starting in February 26th, a little plug there. We spoke in the very last class about ways that we can come back into alignment with our biology and our nature. And we did a really interesting spreadsheet where we went through, we got all the students to, as they wanted to, just throw in things that they do with their day right from the moment they wake up till the moment they go to sleep. And we documented all the fine details of what it was like to go through a day as these humans. And then we went through and color-coded which of those elements was biological, sensical to life, sensical to the continuum of life, and which were working against our biology. And the results were astounding. It was very confronting to see that well over half of our day is now spent in a very non-biological way, a non-biological manner. So it's just having that awareness. And, you know, the reality is we're living in the world we're living in. I'm speaking to you now with cameras and lights and recording, and you're probably going to watch this online. And, you know, that is the reality of where we're living. And there are some things that maybe we can't turn around, or maybe are tricky to overcome, or that also have benefits in the new way that we do them. But also considering, like, where can we make the small shifts back towards nature, towards our biology, and really being a part of nature. And I also believe here that we as humans have many other layers to us, and many other layers of intelligence to us that we probably don't even realize yet. I think that we probably have ways of communicating, ways of being, ways of interacting with other natural elements that some people are exploring, but that we don't have full awareness of just yet. And maybe we will, or maybe we won't. Maybe that will determine which way nature goes and when and if we get put back in our place, so to speak. But my encouragement is to really start thinking about the ways that we can just start bringing our lives and our days and our ways of living back to a more biological way of being. Connect in, like, literally go hug a tree. That one's for you too, Mum. My mum, I swear, was a tree in a past lifetime. Probably not a human. I think she was a tree. She was at her happiest among the trees, among nature. She definitely instilled in me a deep, deep love and connection to nature. And I definitely know that the challenging times within my life, at the heightened points of those challenging times, it has been nature that I've turned to. And sometimes the most ridiculous things, like literally going and sticking my face in a flower, has been able to just bring me back down to earth, so to speak. You know, getting really up close and personal at those heightened points of anxiety or panic or challenge. Sometimes I would just go and lay on the lawn in the grass with my face like a centimeter away from the grass and just observe what was going on in that tiny little space, and there is so much life going on in that space. It really gave me a new perspective and a sense of like, I am everything and nothing. Truly, we're a drop in the ocean, and that rock and that tree were here hundreds of thousands of years before me and going to be here hundreds and thousands of years after me. So in a sense, like, I am so insignificant. And to some people that might sound quite depressing, but for me, I found real relief in that, because it was like, whatever matters today is not going to matter. Like, that ant doesn't care, that grass doesn't care, that rock doesn't care, and that rock's probably going to be here for hundreds, thousands, potentially millions of years after me. And so it really brought things back in and put things into perspective. So I think nature has so much to offer us that we're not even tapping into yet, and I'm inspired to see how that develops. Like, can we somehow utilize this amazing technology that we have around us now to, rather than separate us from nature, can we use it to bring us closer to nature and closer to our biology, closer to understanding ourselves? And so then the last piece to this, like I mentioned, is separation from the other. And this is a really, really hot topic on my heart. And this piece here is, I would say that the work I've been doing with Demartini, so I did my facilitator training with the Demartini method back in, I think it was August 2024. And that has been the most profound piece of work I've ever done in terms of understanding myself and becoming reconnected to others. Because a lot of the premise of the Demartini work is around non-judgment and releasing any hierarchy. It really is a powerful way to create what I would call horizontal relationships. One of my all-time favorite books, if you have not read, please do yourself a favor and go and read it, is The Courage to be Disliked. It is an incredible conversation between student and teacher based in Adlerian psychology. But part of that talks about creating horizontal relationships, not seeing anyone above you, below you, but understanding that we are all completely equal. At some point in time, whatever your belief system is, we effectively came from the same thing. Whether that's God, whether that's stardust, whether that's energy, whatever it is, it all leads back to us coming from the same thing. We are therefore the same thing. We all have within us every single trait, action, or inaction that you could imagine across the scope of possibilities in human life. So if we can really start to understand that and lean into that, we start to create horizontal relationships instead of hierarchical relationships. So no longer do people become better than us, more important than us, or below us, worse than us. They just become human. And we can start to see them as humans who are behaving and taking action from their set of beliefs and values. Rather than someone who's doing something right or doing something wrong, we can just understand that they're the exact same thing as us, just that they've had a different experience, they've got a different filter, and they're behaving from their own set of action, of values and beliefs. And so once we can start to do this, we can see a much greater connection back to each other, because judgment drops away and we're no longer so triggered by people. We no longer need to feel that we have to insert boundaries, which I'm going to talk about next episode. And so, we really start to create these really harmonious relationships when we can start to see the parts in someone else that we think are meh and see them in ourselves and own them. Because not only is every trait, action, inaction within me and within you, there are also both benefits and drawbacks to every single trait that lives within us. So again, we come back to this factor of equilibrium, and that nothing in life is good or bad, all positive or all negative. It always has both sides. There is nothing in this life that exists that has one side. There are two sides to everything, and everything is always looking for equilibrium. So the traits that you perceive to be negative, bad in somebody else, my encouragement, my invitation to you is to find those exact same things within yourself and find the benefits to those traits, so that then we have a neutralized trait action inaction. The trait action inaction is neither good nor bad, it just is. And you no longer judge it in self, which means you no longer judge it in the other as well. And there comes the reconnection with others. The other thing it does is reconnection with self, because no parts of you are perceived as missing anymore. If you can get to the point where you own whatever anybody says about you, be it perceived good or bad, and you can own both sides of that, then you recollect yourself as a whole, truly holistic human being having an experience that owns every single trait within you. And that piece of work over the last few years has profoundly changed my life, because going back to the scenario of the EPOA, there has been immense unrest within our family unit around that, and around mum, and around the diagnosis and everything that that journey has brought about. And this is kind of what instigated a lot of this work for me, was having to come to a place of ownership. So all the things that were being said about me and all the things that I was judging in other family members, I really had to come to a place of owning those things within myself and of non-judgment in the other. So again, owning them within me and coming to love those parts, both in myself and the other. And the wildest, most crazy things have happened in the process of that work. So one is that a family member who was, I don't even want to say attacking me anymore, because that's really shifted for me. But there were some intense challenges with a couple of family members, but two in particular. And one of those, the day that I really, truly came to own one of the big parts of this within myself, that I was like, no, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that, I don't have that within me. When I really, 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 truly came to own that, I kid you not, it was like the day after or a few days after that one of these individuals who had actually been basically lobbying to have the EPOA taken off of me, accusing me a lot of things, did a complete 180, completely unexpected, and offered an olive branch and said, I'm sorry, I actually think you're the perfect person to hold the EPOA. And that moment for me was just like mind-blowing, to see the effects of that ownership and that accountability within self, and then the internal dynamic shifts. And then so the laws of physics and nature tell us that the external dynamic has no choice but to now shift. It has to, because everything's always looking for equilibrium. So if I'm up here and they're down here and I start to come down, they have to come up. Or if I'm down here and they're up here, I've got them on a pedestal and I bring them down, then I have to come up to equalize as well. So everything's always looking for equilibrium in energy and nature, in the universe, in life. We even see this in GNM, GHK. We see that the body is really just trying to restore homeostasis. Once a resolution has been found, it's trying to come back to equilibrium. So this is definitely one of the most profound bodies of work I have found for, like I said, reconnection to other, but also reconnection to self. So an invitation to, if you want some homework, get out a pen and paper, think of the person that pisses you off the most and get really specific on those traits, actions, inactions. What is it that they're really doing? Nail it down, get to it's a fine art, right? You've got to nail it down. You've got to get to something, you want to get to something ideally that both you and I would see the same, or that you could prove in a court of law. So to say she's mean, well, what does that mean? Because I have a different perspective. Like, she's mean to me might be she yelled at me, but to you it might mean she punched you in the face, right? So doesn't count. She's mean, it's a label. You want to get to what did they do, and generally it's going to involve a muscle movement. So if you say she punched me in the face and I perceive that as, now that's the other part, is like, look at the meaning that you're attaching to that thing, to that action. And that's going to give you a lot of context to work with as well. So if you can find the trait, action, inaction, and then find it within yourself, everything that pisses you off about that person, find it within yourself, and it will be there in some form. Sometimes it has a slightly different form. So maybe you haven't physically punched someone in the face, but maybe you punched them in the face with your words or with your look or with your intentions. So find the trait within yourself and then learn to love it. Learn to find the benefits of that. So if you perceive it to be all negative, you want to find where was the benefits of that precise moment, of that precise action, and go through every trait and action and inaction and equilibrate each one until you get to a sense of love and gratitude for that person in your life, no matter what they have done. And John Demartini tells the most incredible stories about this in his breakthrough experiences. Highly recommend you get along to one. He is actually, for the time being, I believe, just wrapped up doing them in person, but you can still attend online. It is an incredible experience, and he tells lots of great stories. He's also very, very crass, and that's the balancing equilibrium side to it. So just go in knowing that. But he tells some amazing stories about all sorts of, perceived perpetrator victim scenarios where they both just end up in an absolute state of gratitude. So highly recommend you get along to one of those if you can. So that is your homework if you choose to accept it, and really an invitation to look at where are you being separated from self, from your biology? Where are you being separated from nature? Where are you being separated from the other? Or where are you causing separation? Or where is separation coming into the equation for you? And really start to feel into how you can turn that back around. I would love to have you come and learn GNM GHK with me. Like I said, we've got the second round of the Live Foundations Plus cohort dropping in February. It was an incredible experience the first time around. I've had this course self-paced for about the last 6 years, and the live just gave it so much more. And that plus part of the foundations is really a big plus. There is a lot more to it than the self-paced course. And in there, we talk a lot about separation and how to come back, how to overcome that, how to come back into a state of connection with self, nature, and other, which basically eliminates the fertile ground for DHS and conflicts. If you are not isolated, if you are not perceiving yourself to be alone, if you are in a state where you can communicate really effectively, and have those channels open with both yourself, nature, and others, then we have a really great starting place for what is essentially preventative healthcare. Trusting that episode was beneficial for today, for you guys, everyone listening, and just sending so much love to my mum and hoping that somewhere in her cells that she knows how much gratitude I have for her and what a profound part of my journey she has been. And thank you for giving me the gift of knowing that I'm here to help dissolve the illusion of separation. Thank you for tuning in to Biological, the podcast. If today's episode offered a new perspective and inspired you, my encouragement for you is to explore what's behind those doors. When we understand the science behind our biology, we begin to relate to our bodies with clarity instead of fear. May you leave this episode feeling invigorated and reminded that your body and life are not malfunctioning. They are responding intelligently and meaningfully. Until next time, keep questioning, observing, and following the golden threads of life.